Hi Tacoma, welcome back to your kindergarten TV classroom. Today is Thursday, November 19th, and I'm Mrs. Oslin. As always, let's take a moment to check in with your zone. Think about what emotion you're feeling. If you're not sure what emotion you're feeling, you can always think about what's happening in your brain and what's happening with your body. And think about your I message. You'll remember an I message sounds like I feel because Take some think time. Now I'm going to model sharing my iMessage with Mabel. Hi Mabel. I'm feeling kind of frustrated and irritated because I could not find my car keys this morning, and it just really set my day off on a not great tone. So that would mean I'm in the yellow zone. So you go ahead and take a moment to share your iMessage with your learning buddy, someone in the room with you, or with me on the screen. Now, with me being in the yellow zone, I'm feeling kind of frustrated about not being able to have found my keys this morning, but I don't feel that feeling so strongly that I don't think that I can learn. So I'm going to keep going, I'm going to take some deep breaths, and I'm going to really try to focus. Okay. Our 3 personal standards. These are the decisions that we make and the behaviors that we use when we come together to make sure that everyone feels safe thinking and speaking so that we can all learn. So put a finger up for each personal standard and say them with me. Show respect, make good decisions, solve problems. And one of the ways that we show respect when we're with our TV classroom is by having active listening posture. It's not only respectful so that I know that you're listening, but it also really helps your brain focus. So go through these with me. Eyes watching, ears listening, voice quiet, body still. And just having active listening posture isn't all that you need to do so that you can listen and learn. You also need to focus. And we learned that sometimes it's helpful for us to use some positive self-talk. That might sound like focus, self-focus. Today, I want to teach you how readers use their background knowledge to make predictions about a text. And what all of that means is that when you're reading, I want you thinking about what do you already know, or what connections do you have? Or what does the story make you think of? And then you're going to predict or think about what you think is going to happen next. We're going to do that with a new story today. This new story is called Fancy Nancy, and it was written by Jane O'Connor, and it was illustrated by Robin Price Glasser. And this is a book called a fiction book. Say fiction. Fiction means it's a story that came from the imagination of our author, Jane O'Connor. She made this story up and wrote it down for us to enjoy. It's fiction. It didn't really happen. It's a story. So as we're reading, think about what do you already know about what's happening in this story? What connections do you have? And then what do you think is going to happen next in the story? Now, as a reader, we always start by thinking about the title, Fancy Nancy, and we look at the front cover to make a connection or a prediction. So look at this front cover, think about the title, Fancy Nancy, and just see what comes up in your brain. Now, I'm thinking about Fancy Nancy, and the word fancy is an interesting word. It means something that is extra or super special. And Nancy is someone's name. And I'm looking at that picture and I'm noticing that she's dressed up in costumes. And this is making me think about when I was a little girl and my sisters and I used to put on our mom's old dresses. We had a tub of dress-up clothes and we used to put those dresses on and pretend like we were adults and act very grown up and very fancy. And I wonder if that's what Nancy, our character in this fiction story, does too. So I'm going to continue to think about my connection and my background knowledge about dress up to see if I can make predictions about this book. Now, you turn and tell your learning buddy what you are thinking about your background knowledge or connections that you're making. Now, as a reader, we're going to keep all of that in mind as we read to make predictions and see what's going to happen next. Fancy Nancy, written by Jane O'Connor, illustrated by Robin Price Glasser. As we get ready to read fiction, we're going to think about what we already know. We studied the front cover, and then we're going to continue to make predictions about what we think is going to happen in this story. I love being fancy. My favorite color is fuchsia. That's a fancy way of saying purple. I like to write my name with a pen that has a plume. That's a fancy way of saying feather. And I can't wait to learn French because everything in French sounds fancy. Nobody in my family is fancy at all. They never even ask for sprinkles. There's a lot they don't understand. Lace-trimmed socks do help me play soccer better. Sandwiches definitely taste better when you stick in frilly toothpicks. A princess is supposed to keep her tiara on. What's a fancy girl to do? I ask my doll Maribel. Her full name is Maribel Lavinia Chandelier. Now, I'm going to stop and check in with what I'm thinking so far using my background knowledge and what connections I might have to Fancy Nancy. And I want you to do the same. Now, I'm going to practice sharing my background knowledge, my connection, and making a prediction about what I think might happen next in this story. Mabel, this page made me think of my mom telling stories of me when I was like in kindergarten or first grade, and I had to wear a dress to school every day, and it had to be a new dress. So I had to go through a lot of dresses or add accessories to them to make them look different. And it was kind of a problem because we couldn't just go buy a bunch of new dresses. So I'm wondering if Fancy Nancy's going to have a problem where maybe she runs out of dress-up clothes or it gets kind of expensive and it becomes a problem. Now, you turn and tell your learning buddy what you were thinking about your background knowledge or your connection with this text and make a prediction about what you think might happen. Let's keep reading to find out. Then I get an idea that is stupendous. That's a fancy word for great. Maybe I can teach my family how to be fancy. I make an ad and stick it on the fridge. It says, "Learn to be fancy with lessons from Nancy. Start today. Easy, fun, free." Soon there is a knock on my door. My family saw the ad. They want to get started right away. And then on her chart she has on her easel she has a chart that says plain, yellow, leather, glasses. Fancy, gold, patent leather, sunglasses. The trouble is, My family doesn't own any fancy clothes. That's okay. I go find, what is that fancy word? Oh yes, some accessories. So now I'm going to check back in with what I thought might happen. And I had made the connection between myself as a little girl, always feeling like I had to wear a new dress to school. And I wondered if that might be a problem for Fancy Nancy too, that maybe they run out of clothes or they have to use accessories. Accessories are things like bows or feathers or sunglasses or jewelry to take plain clothes and make them more fancy. Ooh la la, my family is posh. That's a fancy word for fancy. My mom twirls in front of the mirror. Why don't we go somewhere fancy tonight? How about dinner at the King's Crown, Dad suggests. Wow, my parents are acting fancier already. May I escort you lovely ladies outside? The limousine is waiting. My dad is our chauffeur. That's a fancy word for driver. When we arrive at the King's Crown, everyone looks up. They probably think we're movie stars. I'm so proud of my whole family. They eat with their pinkies up and call each other darling. For dessert, let's have parfaits, my mom says. That's French for ice cream sundaes. Amazing. My mother knows French. When our parfaits are ready, I curtsy and say, merci. Now, look at the little details that our illustrator has included. Do you see that big tray of sundaes or parfaits? And Fancy Nancy's going to carry them to the table? Look at her shoes. What do you think is going to happen next? Take some think time. Turn and tell your learning buddy what you think is going to happen next. Let's keep reading and find out. I carry the tray like a fancy waiter. Oops, I trip, I slip. The tray does a double flip. I don't feel fancy anymore. I want to go home. Now this is making me think of a time when I tripped and fell and dropped a whole bunch of stuff with a lot of people around me, and I didn't feel fancy, and I definitely wanted to go home. I was feeling embarrassed. After I get all cleaned up, I put on my dressing gown. Those are fancy words for bathrobe. I feel much better. I'm ready for a parfait. I tell my parents, thank you for being fancy tonight. I love you, my dad says. I love you, my mom says. And all I say back is, I love you, because there isn't a fancy or better way of saying that. Now, we talked about how Fancy Nancy felt very fancy. And at the end, she tripped and fell, and she was feeling an emotion. And I noticed that she was even crying. So what I want you to do is take some think time and think about different words that express emotion. Think about different words that talk about how people are feeling. Take some think time. Now turn and tell your learning buddy some words that you thought of that express emotion. Mabel, I was thinking about how Fancy Nancy might have been embarrassed, and that's an emotion. I also was thinking about my zones check-in that I did this morning, and I talked about being frustrated. That's an emotion. Also, when I get some really, really good news about something that makes me happy, I could also say I feel excited. Now, in your new ELA packet, you will find Appendix 2 words that express emotion. And you'll also find a chart that looks like this, that has lots of different pictures of kids having an emotion and different words to describe that emotion. And I want you on your Appendix 2, where it says words that express emotions, I want you to draw pictures and write words like this that express emotion. And thinking about, how did Fancy Nancy feel? And have you ever felt that way? That's one way that you can make a connection or use your background knowledge about how to read a book and better understand what you're reading. Today we learned to use our background knowledge to make predictions about a text. We used what we think we know. We used our own experience or connections to make predictions, to guess what we think might happen in a text. Now, we are going to practice writing some letters that we have already learned. So, I would like you, this is going to be a little mini brain break for you. You're going to go get your whiteboard and marker and then come back to me ready to go. Go ahead. Okay, remember, when we use our whiteboard marker, we take the cap off and we always plug it in the bottom so we don't lose it. Name this letter. Sound this letter. Pens up, slanted line down, little line connecting. Ooh, I hear some of you saying the letter formation pathway with me. That's going to help your brain and your body better remember how to write these letters so you can do it in a snap. All right, name this letter. Sound this letter. Lowercase a is a letter that is small, so we say pens out, bump back around, line up, line back down. Name this letter. Sound this letter. Capital B is a letter that is tall, so we say pens up, line down, back up, bump around, bump around. Remember, B's have bumps on the front like a belly. That helps you remember which way the letter should face. Lowercase b, pen up, long line down, back up a scooch, bump around with your bump on the front like a belly. Name this letter. Sound this letter. J says J. Capital J is a letter that is tall, so we say pens up, line down and hook up, line across the top. Lowercase j is a letter that falls, so we say pens out, line down below and hook up, float a dot above. Next letter, name this letter, sound this letter. Let's write this letter. M, capital M is a letter that's tall, so we say pens up, line down, back up, slanted line down, slanted line up, line down. Lowercase m is a letter that is small, so we say pens out, line down, back up, bump around, and down. Are you finding that it's getting easier and easier to write these letters? Hopefully, as we practice more, you get muscle memory where you don't really even have to think about it anymore. Your fingers just know exactly how to write the letter N. N says N. Good. Pens up, line down, back up, slanted line down, line up. Lowercase n is a letter that is small, so we say pens out, line down, back up, bump around, and down. Name this letter. Sound this letter. R, capital R is a letter that is tall, so we say pens up, line down, back up, bump around, slanted line down. Lowercase r is a letter that is small, so we say pens out, line down, back up, tiny turn, and stop. Name this letter. Sound this letter. Capital S is a letter that is tall, so we say pens up, bump around, make sure you're bumping around the correct way, slide down, bump around the other way, and stop. A lowercase s is a letter that is small, so we say pens out, bump around, slide down, bump around the other way, and stop. Name this letter. Sound this letter. Capital T is a letter that is tall, so we say pens up, line down, line across the top. Lowercase t is also tall, so we say pens up, line down, little line across. Your job today, friends, when you're independently reading is think about what you already know if you're reading a fiction text, a story that's made up from the author's imagination, and think about what do you already know or what experiences do you have where you can make connections and predictions. See if you can figure out what's going to happen on the next page before you turn the page. You can also study the cover to make predictions and look at the title and read the title and think about what this story might be about. You can also use what you know about letter names and sounds to practice finding letters in the words and reading the pictures, listening for the sounds of the letters that you already know. You can also use these letter sounds to write. You can make up your own story. Maybe you had a really strong connection with Fancy Nancy and you want to write a story about Fancy Nancy and an adventure that she goes on. You can use what you know about letter names and sounds to start writing, listening to words all the way through, stretching them out, and writing all the sounds that you hear. Now it's your 5-minute break. Your job is to take care of your needs, but also gather your materials. You already have your whiteboard and marker and your learning buddy, so you just need to get your counters and be ready in 5 minutes for Math with Mrs. Wally. One last reminder, if you haven't already connected with your teacher, getting your new ELA packet, please do that because you will be needing it for your lessons. Thank you so much for reading and thinking and writing with me today. I hope you have a great day and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.
Hi, kindergartners, it's Thursday. So we're going to do 5 and 10s frames. How many do you see? How many did you see? I hear 4. We saw a 10s frame. How many dots were there? You think 4. How do you know? Because it was a 10s frame and you saw all but 1 filled in the top. Let's look at that. The top of a 10s frame is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if 1 is missing, then we have 4. Kiss your brain, kindergartners. Okay, you ready for the next one? How many do you see? That was so fast. You want to look again? How many do you see? How do you know it's 5? The top of the 10s frame is all the way full. Well, how else could you know that it's 5? Oh, you might see 3 and 2, or you might see 1 and 4. And all of those things make 5. Excellent. Ready for the next one? How many do you see? How many did you see? How many do you see? How many? 4. How do you know it's 4? You saw 2 and 2? Oh, you saw the top had all but 1 filled in, and we learned that 2 slides ago. Let's look. 2 and 2 makes 4. The top is 5, and with 1 gone, it's 4. Nice job. Ready? How many do you see? Look again. How many do you see? Someone said, I see 5 on top and 1 on the bottom. What is 5 on top and 1 on the bottom? 5, 6. Oh, someone said, I know that this is 10 and there's 4 empty ones, and 4 and 6 make 10. So they knew they're friends of 10. Awesome job. There are 6 red dots. Okay, are you ready? How many do you see? Show you again. How many do you see? How many? 6. How did you know it was 6? Oh, you saw 2, 4, 6. Hey, did anyone see it different? Oh, someone saw 3 and 3. Awesome. Someone said there's 4 blank ones, so I know there's 6 filled in ones. Nice job, kindergartners. Today we're going to keep learning to compare 2 numbers. Okay, so I'm going to show you the first picture, and I want you to match them and see what there's more of and what there's less of. You're doing it in your head? I'm just writing something for us to say on my whiteboard. All right. How many soccer balls are there? 4. How many water bottles are there? 5. Let's match them up. You ready to do a different color than our numbers? Here we go. Match, 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 match. Okay, time to look at my whiteboard and see what I wrote. It says blank is more than blank. Which group had more? Water bottles or the soccer balls? Yeah, the water bottles. How many water bottles are there? 5. So we say 5 is more than 4. Very good. 5 is more than 4. Okay, now we want to do less or fewer. Which one had less? Soccer balls or water bottles? Soccer balls. How many soccer balls are there? 4. So 4 is less than 5. 4 is less than 5. Oh, very good, kindergartners. That's what we did last time. Now look, it's a pet store. And we are going to do some counting of objects, and then we're going to compare them. So there's similar objects here in the pet store. We have dog bones. We have dishes and balls. We have collars. We have puppy dogs. Okay, so which one do you want to pick first? Let's do the puppy dogs. Let's compare the puppy dogs. Are you ready? Okay. How many gray puppy dogs do you see? 3. So what I want you to do is on your board, you can build with your counters or draw the gray puppy dogs. 1, 2, 3. And how many spotted puppy dogs do you see? 5. So we're going to draw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Which puppy dogs are there more of? The gray ones or the spotted ones? Which ones? How do you know? Oh, you matched them up. It's the spotted ones because 5 is more than 3. Say it with me. 5 is more than 3. Very good. Okay. Let's erase. Let's compare something else. Let's compare dog bones to gray puppy dogs. Okay. How many gray puppy dogs? 3. Let's write our numbers. 3. And how many doggy bones are there on the middle shelf right here? How many doggy bones is right here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, let's draw the doggy bones or build it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And let's write the number 5. Now, we want to find out which one's less. You ready? Match, match, match. Which one's less? Yeah, the gray puppy dog's less. We don't have as many. Okay, so 3 is less than 5. Very good. Okay, reset. Let's compare tennis balls. Here are the tennis balls. Ooh, I'm going to erase the last thing I did. Whoops, wrong way. Eraser, please. Erase. Okay. Let's compare tennis balls. We're going to count each tennis ball to spotted puppy dogs. Okay. You ready? How many tennis balls do you see? 6. So let's draw our 6 tennis balls. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And how many spotted puppy dogs were? Oh, I need to write the number 6. You can't forget, that's important. And how many spotted puppy dogs? 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This time I want you to say which is more. Ready? Okay, find out which one is more. And how do you know? Great. Match, 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 match. Oh no. Which one's more? 6 is more than 5 because 6 has some left over. All right, racy, racy, race. Let's compare the red collars to the yellow collars. How many red collars do you see? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many yellow collars do you see? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wait a minute. Match them up. We'll see which one's less. None of them are less. They're the same. Sometimes we compare things, they're the same. 5 is the same as 5. They're the same thing. All right. Let's go to the next page. Okay, friends. Ready? Look at the top. I want you to draw circles or build the spotted puppy dogs and the gray puppy dogs and compare and tell me which group has more. Count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If you need to draw. If you don't need to draw, you can do this just on here, you can. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, ready? 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's my spotted puppy dogs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's match them. Match, 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 match. Which one has more? The spotted puppy dogs. How did drawing your lines help you understand, know which one has more? How did that help you? How was that helpful? Yeah, it helps you keep track, doesn't it? It's really helpful, huh? All right, now we're going to do the collars together. Are you ready? Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Which colored collar has more? The yellow has more. How do you know? Because there's one that doesn't have a partner. Excuse me. Let me get a sip really quick. Okay, sometimes when your throat gets dry. All right, let's take a look at your assignment for today. Your assignment for today looks a lot like what we just did. You're going to do page 149 and 150. We're going to compare with intent at the pet store. There are directions down below. You need to have an adult read to you. And then you're going to do the pictures and draw lines and compare. And you're going to circle the group that has fewer in it. All right? Okay, last problem. Which has more? You decide. Go ahead. See if you can figure out which has more. Which has more, triangles or circles? Circles, how do you know? Because it has one left with no partner, huh? So circles is more than triangles. Say that with me. Circles is more than triangles. Let's do our learning check. Today we learned to compare two numbers or two groups of quantities. Did we tell which was greater or less, more or fewer? Yeah. Did we say it in a sentence? Blank is more than blank, or blank is less, than blank? Mrs. Wally made an error, and that's okay. I'll go back and fix it. Blank is less than blank? Yes. Kiss your brain, kindergartners. Nice job comparing today, friends. Now it's time for our affirmation. And you are starting to use what you know about the numbers 1 through 10 and what they mean. You're using that information, and now you're comparing. That's a strong mathematician. So your affirmation today is, I am a strong mathematician. You ready? I'll go first. I am a strong mathematician. Your turn. Excellent job, kindergartners. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.
Hey kids, we want to see your work. Just send your pictures and your stories to TV Classroom, 601 South 8th Street, Tacoma, Washington, 98405.